Eminem's back with his new album, Revival, and I'm here to cover that as my first review because it's Eminem. Why not? Going into this album, it's important to ask yourself, what are you expecting from Eminem in late 2017? Are you expecting the controversial Slim Shady pop music? Do you have no expectations at all? Which I think is probably the best way to approach any of his albums nowadays. Personally, what I want is I want to see Eminem grow, but I do want to be entertained. I would like him to continue the approach of maybe comical. It doesn't have to be getting death threats in the mail, but I would like something entertaining in the sense of Redman or Sean Price. Eminem himself has seemed to want to move away from the controversial perspective over the past 10 years, ever since what he deems Relapse to be a failure. He's tried to move away in more of a growing pop perspective. Not in the sense that he's going completely pop, which his overall sound may or may not be to you, but he's changed the subject matter to talking about his growth and how he's closing the door on his past. He's not going back to who he was. And that message persists throughout this album, for better or for worse. But it seems as if Eminem himself is very aware that no matter what he does, he's going to piss off some of his fans. And he addresses that on his first single, Walk on Water, where he almost harps that he's afraid he's going to let you down. But does he? One positive for this album is M's lyrical game. I don't think many people are questioning that he's good with the pen, and his punchlines on this are still impeccable. I could sit here and quote almost like half the album. That's why they call me Firecracker. I grew up on Wick with a short fuse. Oh. Yeah, so that's me rapping Eminem's lyrics. But there is some really cringeworthy moments on this album. Here's one example. Started from the bottom like a snowman. Oh man. Put that in your corn cob and smoke that. On the controversial tip, Untouchable is the new White America Part 2. So many fans have become comfortable with Eminem. There's people who have really conservative views but are okay with Eminem because he wasn't speaking in a political manner. Saying this rattles some feathers, it pisses people off, and it's great. It shakes people off who don't even care about hip-hop and just like it because of the pop songs or whatever. And for Eminem to bring this and people to question whether or not they're actually an Eminem fan based on his content, it's great for hip-hop in my opinion. It's great for the message too and stuff, for Black Lives Matter and other current political situations. Untouchable is a great track, a great example of Eminem being controversial with a purpose. There was the same argument with Ice Cube for the longest time. What was he angry about? Was Ice Cube really angry anymore after his message had, I don't want to say changed, but had sort of faded away during like the early 2000s. So Eminem's back and he's actually angry like this. But does he keep the actual reason, the actual purpose for each song going? Well, basically, no. Eminem does not keep the controversy, or at least any reasoning for what little controversy is on this album outside of Untouchable. M has been repeating this theme of making positive music for people to move on from abusive relationships. In the past couple albums, he's been talking about just leaving the past behind him and moving on, which is great, you know? But at the same time, he's beating a dead horse. It's not a new song every time. It feels like it's a reiteration, a varying of the previous songs. And there's multiple versions of those kind of moving on from relationship songs on this album. And there are some that really stick out. Like Bad Husband is a great track. He's owning up to his portion of the drama with his baby mother, Kim. But then there's another song shortly after called Tragic Ending, which, once again, it's just about him having to move on from another relationship or whatever. It's like, should this be a private song he keeps just for himself? It doesn't vary much from Bad Husband, except it's generic sounding. It's just, it devalues Bad Husband. and it's really just a filler track, and it makes Eminem feel soft, sappy, weak. Before he would just be angry at women, but now it's just he's complaining and he's crying victim in all these relationships, and it's like, toughen up, man. Where the fuck is Slim Shady? The self-titled Revival is another track I have to talk about. It's definitely a highlight on the album. The pop song makes you want to fucking kill yourself, but at the same time, the lyrics and the message is so deep. It's Donald Trump's version of George Bush's Mosh, except this one has a lot less energy to it. Mosh was angry. Revival is just a We Are the World pop track, but the lyrics are so on point and so focused. I remember whenever Eminem recently did the BET cypher and he was attacking Trump, and while it was a great message, it came off really corny with lines like, "That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Should I dump it on Trump? Probably not." And it was tough to get through that. However, here on Revival, sure, you have production that will make you wishing that this whole album was a cappella, but his delivery, his wordplay, his focus is so on point for Revival that it's worth listening to no matter how bad the production is. Speaking of Revival, the album title itself, after listening to the album, leaves me wondering what is being revived here. He's clearly not reviving Slim Shady. He's not reviving his pop status. He's already has that. He didn't lose it. He's not reviving hardcore hip-hop, at least not with this production. Is he reviving lyricism? Possibly. But based on the track Revival being a shot at Donald Trump, is he implying that he's reviving America as a whole by making a track for us all to come together and hate Donald Trump on? I suppose that's what he's actually aiming for here. However, the message isn't consistent enough throughout the entire album. You have Revival and Untouchable being two political tracks on here, and I believe that there's another track on here where he briefly touches subject matter to do with politics, but it's not enough to establish a coherent theme for the album. Some other filler tracks, Nowhere Fast, Need Me, Offended, In Your Head. In Your Head has a loop sample, but it's not that different. I mean, it's nothing special, content-wise. In Your Head is another track about moving on in his life. One of the best produced tracks, Castle, which is basically a dedicated track to his eldest daughter, Haley. And this is the first time he's actually seemingly wrote a track for Haley that wasn't used as a publicity stunt or as leverage against his baby mother, Kim. It seems like a true dedication track to make up for all the times that her name was brought up in the controversy. However, we come to the final track on the album, and it leaves so much to be desired. Dr. Dre once said on the Encore album, "That's why we save the best cut last, to leave you scratching and itching for it like fresh cut grass." It's once again just about his life changing and moving on. And the last 10 to 15 seconds of the album, the production switches up and goes back to the same production from the previous track, Castle, and M gets a little aggressive, and then the album just ends. It's not enough, and it leaves almost no replay value for the album. I've been listening to this album for about 2 days now, and I'm only listening it this much just for the review sake. I'm not listening it because I'm craving it. The energy just isn't here for this album. The lyrics are, but there's no entertainment value, and that is a part of music. Sure, messages are important, but there should be an entertainment value, and I'm not feeling it. So another thing that kills me about Eminem is his guest features. He could have any rapper in the world on there, you know? He's Eminem. He could bring Outkast, get them back together. But he chooses people like Fresher and pop singers, R&B singers, knockoff R&B singers. Like, I swear some people on here are just fillers for Rihanna. But he could have anybody he wants, but he chooses this crap. And sure, it's his album, so he can do that if he wants. But it's not a good look for hip-hop, I don't think, for the next evolution, if you have one of the most recognized lyrical artists of all time condoning, co-signing Fresher, you know? Why doesn't he reach out to somebody who needs the attention, that is genuinely lyrical? Now, you can argue, yeah, he's helped people before, like, he helped shine a light on Slaughterhouse. He did a whole album with Royce to make up for his past with him. But he should be reaching out even more. Like, even Kanye West, for as much as his music changed. You can say whatever you want about Kanye, but he put Chance the Rapper on. Like, Chance already had a little shine, but he took him to the next level. He made him a star. Now Chance has, you know, TV commercials and stuff. Where's M doing that for some new cat who needs the attention, you know, and who's genuinely lyrical like Chance? So when you look at this album as a whole, lyrically, it's on point. However, most of the beats on this album are fucking awful. But should that be a deciding factor for a score for this album? After all, this channel is mostly about lyrics, not about the production. And in a way, Eminem does a great job challenging his fans. He knows he has lyrical game, and the question is, can you sit through the bullshit production to hear dope lyrics? I mean, I think like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that was becoming a huge problem in rap, where people started caring more about the beats, the hypnotic vibes of the production, rather than what the rappers were actually saying. And I feel like ever since then, mainstream rap has plummeted with its lyrical content. Here, M's providing lyrical content on a mainstream level, but you have to endure the most annoying pop sounds any hip-hop fan would ever want to hear. And so, in a way, it really does test your loyalty to how much you care about lyricism. But at the same time, it does drain from the energy of this album. And I walk away from this album saying, yeah, it was good content, but I have no urge to want to re-listen to almost anything on this album. I will be revisiting tracks like Untouchable, and while I'm on that, I might skip ahead and go through some other tracks again. M still has skill. He just needs help focusing, or a new team around him to help him focus on developing or delivering a more consistent album. Now, to grade this album, on the Lyrical Exam, there's no question this Eminem Revival album gets an A-. From the perspective as just an overall rap album, I have to drop it honestly down to like a 6 out of 10. And that's the Lyrical Exam.